It's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 6th of June to the 13th of June. No mid videos today, fellas. It's a good day. It was a good digest day. The first thing I wanted to point your way, though, if you finish digest and want to hear more of my voice, I suppose, you should definitely check out the newest episode of Pissed Pirates. The One Piece live action is terrifying, but we talk about a lot more other things, including the One Piece OVA and the first movie. We watched them together and really enjoyed ourselves, and I really enjoyed recording it, really enjoyed editing it. It's literally like some of my favorite things that I'm making right now. Honestly, it's just a joy to be able to talk to Jack about One Piece and or just anime in general and stuff, and pick brains and things like that. I don't know. It's just a delightful time. I love it. And I'll finally be actually starting to watch One Piece again this week on Saturday. I'm going to start that back up. So yippee! Looking forward to that. But I hope you check out the podcast. It's awesome. I love it. Well, let's start with some videos I thought were decent. You're pretty good. And this first one, I wanted to point your way towards Moist Critical. This is the third time he's done this, of talking about the worst anime of all time. And it's the best anime you've never heard of. He mostly gives it, he's kind of doing a search for the worst, or best, search for the worst that IHE used to do way back. He hasn't done them very much anymore. But so he's just been going from the bottom of my anime list and going upwards. And I don't necessarily like his stance of not covering some of the like smaller shorts. He says that it's because he doesn't believe that they're anime, which I think is kind of annoying and disingenuous. Not disingenuous, he probably actually believes that. But it's more of the fact that, like, clearly you can't milk a 10-minute video out of a 3-minute short. Even for Charlie here, who like can be kind of verbose for my taste sometimes. Like, I like the stuff that he talks about and generally like his perspective, and I think he's a good voice in the wider YouTube space, kind of pointing towards certain dramas and things like that. But sometimes his verbiage, and because he's talking off the cuff, it can be kind of tedious, in my opinion. Granted, I'm off the script as well, so what can I can understand that. But like, he just randomly decided to start doing this series, and I didn't cover the first two because I was just kind of like tired that like these have been covered before to death. Skelter Heaven and Mars of Destruction, like, come the fuck on. And he's just kind of describing what happens, and it's not all that additive and engaging, in my opinion. But but the third one, he's actually talking about something I haven't seen really people talk about, which is at least additive and cool, interesting. It's Abunai Sisters. It's this like 10-episode OVA, only 3 minutes each, but like that's at least that's enough to actually talk enough about it. And it's, again, I haven't seen really. I've seen it before though. I have, like, these designs definitely look somewhat familiar. Of course, he really doesn't dig into it the way I would have liked, I guess. When Saberspark covered, was it Popey the Clown? I love that video. I think his coverage of that and going into the actual like talking about why it was made and like a genuine endorsement for it and kind of embracing the insanity of it, that was nice. I really appreciated that. And I'm not saying Charlie needed to embrace everything, like, again, it's that thing I have. It's like, I prefer you actually talk kind of positively or warmly about these anime and understand that people put time into this thing and made it. And clearly were passionate or cared about this thing. This one, it seems that the only thing on Mal is that it was directed, written, and storyboarded by the same guy. And he also went out to work on Space Bug, which is that thing that Urban and Core and all those guys kind of geeked out over when it was airing back in 2018. Jesus Christ. Anyway, but that was all he had done. And yeah, it does seem pretty shallow, just an action ecchi, and it's not even that raunchy. It's just how big their boobs are, and that's it. It seems pretty harmless to me, honestly. Like, the whole negative rating thing, it's just a whole big thing on Mal. It's whatever. And I think Charlie ultimately has a good take here, which is just like, it's really not the worst thing. It was at least modicumly entertaining and kind of, absurd. But it definitely, and obviously it wasn't great. The chipmunk voices don't help. Although I was find it interesting that, and he didn't mention this, that it's in English. You know, for being a Japanese anime, I think that's kind of rare. And I looked on Mal, and there's no credits for the voice actors. Maybe it's on. I'm not gonna look up the anime myself. I really don't care. I really don't give a shit. But I thought that was interesting. It's something he didn't mention. It seems like a dub, perhaps, but because of the lip flaps. But I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, you know, I just, at least, at the very least, it's interesting that such a huge YouTuber is making a series like this. This is his third installment doing that. And also he's covering, you know, at least he's finally covering something that no one's talked about. So that was interesting, at least. I wanted to point your way to that. Yes, I did check out that Otaku-Vs, a new installment of their animated arc. That's the thing that they want to do now, honestly, and that's awesome. And this is like the first one that I know of, really, that doesn't have Oda-chan at all. And it's just sort of a fun concept idea of kind of doing a cute girls doing cute things thing, except it's for Discord, and you know, the 4 girls are in a Discord server or whatever, and it's just a lot of in-jokes, and kind of like, if you're on Discord, you'd probably think it's funny and things like that. He's definitely, I think he's ditched the dub thing. No, maybe not completely, but whatever. But this one was just Japanese again, and I like the ED. I like that there was a kind of the girls are all singing an ED, kind of like Dragon Maid or you know, a lot of those types of shows. They're all in there and all singing the ED and making it all cute and stuff. That was good. I don't know. You know what else? I was just curious. I looked in the credits and things like that, and I noticed the episode direction and storyboarded was just guessed. I thought that was interesting. It seemed everything else was very well credited, which I really appreciate from fan projects. You know, not fan projects, I shouldn't say. It's original content, you know, from projects like this, that it's all really well credited and everything. I just thought that was interesting. It's like, I don't know why that's not credited. Yeah, it's not really a big deal, though. It's just something I was interested in. But you know, it is funny, and definitely pretty authentic to the, you know, to what anime feels like now, in terms of like the aesthetic and the visuals and things like that. You know, it's something I was constantly trying to pay attention to. I'm not like fluent in Japanese, but I've heard enough Japanese audio to be able to to read the subs, and then it's not like just fake subs, you know, they're not just kind of like haha or I don't know, they're like jokes or something. Obviously it's jokes in the anime, but like it's not you're having nonsense Japanese or something. Like, they are actually saying those things. I may have said that in the previous video or something, but like, that was something I was noticing, that it's just very internet-y humor, and it is being authentically translated into Japanese, you know? But in terms of it being like authentic to Japanese humor, you know, and it was like, is this how an anime would translate these kinds of jokes or have this sort of situation? I'm not sure, actually. I can definitely tell. I think it's like Yusuf's humor, and he's credited as writing it. Well, there's multiple people in the script, including Dissidia, which is funny, Rebel House. And it's like, it is their kind of humor, and it's like, yeah, it's okay. It's not like it's not something that I'm personally that susceptible to in terms of comedy, but it's something I can appreciate, at least. But yeah, I don't know. I certainly enjoyed it, and again, I always appreciate the polish and everything. And you know what funny also is I don't know what this is with YouTube, but like, they started doing this thing where they have that wavelength, you hover over the scroll bar, and it shows the most replayed parts. And I don't know what that... I don't feel comfortable with that, but it is interesting. It is a curiosity. And I'm not God, I don't want to look at it for my videos, because I think I just get too self-conscious about it. But like, it is interesting. You can see that. And for some reason, the most replayed part on this video is the ad, is like the advertisement for the acrylic figure that they have there. That's just such a mind break for me. I'm just like, you'd think that's the thing people skip, you know? That kind of like tap is like, let's get back to the thing. Although you don't really feel the need to do that with this one, because it's all very skit based, and it doesn't feel like a break in the same way. I like that there's no. To my recollection, I don't think there's any mid-roll ad breaks or anything. There very well could be in places because it's very skit based and they kind of keep cutting it with like eye catches and stuff. But there, to my recollection, there's no mid ad like YouTube ad breaks, which is interesting. Anyway, just something I noticed. Completely run on Patreon, which is awesome. I don't know why. I guess I had more to say about that than I realized. That's nice, cool. But yeah, I enjoyed the. It was really. It's also just interesting that they're now we have no idea what to expect. It could be about Oda-chan. It could be about something completely different. And I think this opens the door to more stuff. And that's just really interesting and exciting. So best of luck to the team on doing another project and stuff. I think hopefully this one does well. I checked out Magical's video on Nanoha. Nanoha was magical, and this is just covering the first season. For some reason, I thought it was longer. The lyrical Nanoha series, it's only I think 50 episodes total. The first season's 13, second season 13, and the third season is 26. And I wish that this was more covering the whole series and was more retrospective, because I was starting to watch it and I'm like, finally a Nanoha video that I can like get a grasp on, and like what is this series I keep hearing all about and everything, and definitely motivated me to watch it for sure. I think not so much of what Magical said, but I think once I looked it up and realized it was only that short, I was like, damn, that's not like an investment. Damn. Okay. No offense to Magical. I really enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed the personal perspective he's putting into it. Like it was his first Magical Girl series, and kind of talking through his logic of like, when I'm a southern white man in southern states, you really can't be caught watching Sailor Moon or you'll get your teeth knocked out. And then he's like, I watched Nanoha. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I can go without my teeth. That was great. Really like that personal perspective, and talking through the whole show and admiring certain aspects of it, like the AI was really neat. I certainly didn't feel its length, I think, but yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, I have too much else to say about it. I think he is putting out some good stuff. I'm looking forward to covering the rest of the series, I think, because I'm just curious about the whole thing. But yeah, I really liked it. And Get in the Mecha had another installment of their podcast, episode 114. It's actually pretty surprising. I didn't know there was that many of them. That's awesome. We're doing studying water and visual storytelling, thanks to the Funeoamu representation. Let's fucking go. Great passage, if you don't remember, from 2016, I think 2016. Jesus Christ, it's been a while. But yeah, great passage, awesome. Actually one of the few anime series I physically own, because it's like, I didn't think we would get this, physically. We have that, but not Shogun Roku Rakugo Shinju. Anyway, but he covers Rakugo Shinju as well. So of course, a friend of the show, Heiki Monogatari. Yeah, I did appreciate that. And talking about how it's used in anime and even an Attack on Titan reference, and like, he kind of went show by show talking about it, giving the episode, and like focusing on one image, just one image, not really going show by show so much as one image from one show, being very hyper focused on that. And I really like the talk at the end about like overanalyzing, and it's like, it's not that deep, bro. And he's just like, well, why not? It's like, this is interesting. I really fuck with that personally, because you really can go and I also love his point about animation specifically is the art that they have to pay the most attention to. They really, everything is intentional. I love that. Although I will say, when in the creation of art, I was going to relate it to my own videos, because I do consider, I artistically at least, I guess I could relate it to the AMVs or something. When you're making stuff, I think there is an aspect of like, yes, this is what I wanted. There's also that limitation of like, this isn't quite what I had in mind, or like what you have pictured in your head, and trying to, that execution is another layer entirely. And there's also a layer of what I'm thinking in terms of his argument about intentionality. I completely agree. There's also a level of luck, and sort of just things happen to turn out that way. At least when I'm working on AMVs, a lot of the shots that end up happening only happen because I'm like, let's try this. oh, it kind of works really well, and it creates a brand. You think it's interesting with like it's like a choose your own adventure type of thing where you choose one of two things and they're going to these different directions, and things can and also creative choices can change over time. If you worked on one shot over here and another shot later makes you think, oh, we could recontextualize this thing over here. Those things can work together. I love that aspect of art personally, that like there's so much like unintentionality and luck. But there's but that doesn't necessarily negate what he's saying. I think it's just even more nuance to it, really. Yeah, I really appreciate that. That I like that defense of sort of like, why are we focusing so heavily on certain things? I think I can understand it being like it looks very narrow in scope, because perhaps if he's only analyzing a handful of shots, hey, like how additive does it end up being? I think that cumulatively all of this together, he's creating a bigger picture about the use of water. But then I can understand also the argument of like, you should take that as a holistic thing. What is Fumio Amo as a whole talking about when it comes to water? How is it using it? It's not just in these few shots. You should be more thorough, would be an argument, I would say. At least for me, like literally when I'm working on this Naruto video, I have a section where I'm talking about one of the characters. Obito is my favorite villain. I'm not doing this for every character, just this one, actually. And I also did it for Hinata technically, but it was easy for Hinata because she's not in it that much, all things considered. But Obito, he's kind of throughout Shippuden, and I literally went through like the whole thing, not episode by episode necessarily. I had the wiki to help me a little bit, but I wrote down every episode that he's in and what happens in that episode that is related to him, just so that I'm able to be as holistic as possible, something like that, right? But I also understand that's very cumbersome, and if you want to make a weekly podcast like this, it makes sense where it's like, well, think about some water shots. Oh, there's that one shot in the OP of Rakugo Shinju, and it's like she's drowning, and yeah, and that's fine. And then you can go as deep as you want on those sorts of things. I just like it. I think that's an interesting approach, and I always admire your presentation, at least, of just like being on camera, but then in the corner, like a face cam almost. But there's no footage; it's just screen caps and kind of a nice background. I kind of really fuck with you drawing things with like, oh, I'm gonna do an iceberg, and I don't know the iceberg videos, but we're gonna try it. I don't know how ultimately that worked out in terms of, I think it just went show by show, and I didn't get that feeling of an iceberg necessarily. But I liked how it was explored in different ways, and the show by show was digestible in that way. But that initial point of view was just kind of drawing the concept that you're trying to go for here, honestly was really engaging and interesting, and maybe do more with that. I think that could be really cool, at least additive to your existing, because again, it's a podcast, right? I get it. But I think the video adds a lot, actually, especially because you're talking about very specific shots, and you're able to use those screen caps of like, this is precisely what I'm talking about, and even draw on the screen caps at some points. That sort of analysis doesn't really happen that often. I really like that. Maybe play more with that, I would say. Yeah, I don't know. I just found that part really compelling. I'm sorry, I'm just repeating myself a bunch. Yeah, but I really like the concept and the video here. Yeah, it was a good time. Nice job. Whew, is it hot in here? Is it just me? I think it's June. Well, I thought I'd talk about the best videos of the week. The ones where it's like, yeah, that was pretty great. This first one's just a podcast from Weeb Crew with Kenny Lauderdale guesting. Part 1? I didn't expect that. What? He just kind of has Kenny on, and they're just talking about general stuff, and Kenny talks about his creative process and his perspective on YouTube. I actually really enjoyed hearing his perspective on Hazel, because at least for me on Digest, I've connected the two of them in terms of their subject matter. But he talks about is like, they're so goddamn long, and it's the tangents and shit like that. I really liked his perspective. I think it's really unique and additive. They're talking at a level of like, you've seen this? Yeah, I know what you're talking. Like Albus and Cyberland, for example. Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. And they're all talking at this elevated level. It's like, oh, you ever look on YouTube and you search the, things like that is awesome. I also just like that like FK Ghost and him, but both and Kenny have both made a video on the same subject and stuff, and them talking about that. That was really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed the discussion here. Also the stuff with like that lost anime stuff like that. That was really great. Just it's a good time. I definitely recommend listening to that if you're finished with this podcast or with Piss Pirates and or this one. I think all it's great conversations all around, all around. And part one, what do you mean? Yeah, it's good. I think this is the first time I've talked about Amelie Doree on Digest, the weird, wonderful, and influential world of Ayayo-san. It's a eroge, erotic game, very old, like from the early '90s. And yeah, I mean, I'm completely in the dark about this sort of thing, but I got it sent in my my patron Discord, and like, does this count? And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. It's just, yeah, but you know, the one thing I'm gonna make an observation, and it's becoming rote at this point, but trust me, I don't think I'm stretching with this. It's just Hazel again. Like I tried looking at like, are they mutuals? Is it related channels? I don't know. They started like a couple months ago. Really good videos, honestly, but like, it's a very similar cadence. The 10-minute tangent about like their patrons and like talking about it, and like what was one thing where I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. There was something that she said here that I'm like, that's just Hazel. Like, that is literally just what she would do. And I'm not even talking about the length here either. I think the length is actually justified in this one. It's describing in detail all 5 of these eroges from the 90s, and the evolution. The arc here is really interesting. I really like the first game just being like literally less than a half hour and nothing of a character, and like kind of does nothing with it really, but it's still giving it the attention and respect that it deserves. I don't think that, you know, I think they're still frank about it, but they're able to kind of, with each one, they're not really digging on anything. I think the optimism and enthusiasm of all the live action segments of filming the Japanese computer with some of the games on it, and going through her shelf with some of the games that she's bought, is all really admirable and interesting. And you could tell it's from someone who knows what they're talking about. Like, these are actually really impressive animations. I think some people would like maybe scoff at it, or just like, yeah, not really, if they don't have any frame of reference or experience with it. But Emily's able to really, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but like, she's really able to come from a place of authority and being like, this is actually really cool and impressive, even giving a couple quotes here and there, pretty well researched, and also giving the sources and crediting it in the video itself. Like, this person helped me with translations, this website's really, really useful, buying the whole art book and things like that. It's good research. It's actually good research. At least it seems to me. You know, maybe I'm just in that honeymoon phase once again with like when I was with Hazel's content, and then it kind of goes over, and I don't know. But I really think the narrative arc here, justifying going through each game and describing it, because every single one, and Emily's really able to articulate this, really evolves over time, artistically, narratively, thematic, just entertainment wise. It's while each being a distinctive, unique experience, and not just being like, it made this other one irrelevant. I really like that, even going through some of the remakes and stuff like that, and how they're not so good and things like that. But that narrative arc was so interesting, of just really slowly evolving and overcoming the stigma of being a shitty eroge, and the message at the end of like, you know, this is why I think that I want to reiterate what the chapter was called. It was really good. The kind of the cathartic end of the video, Ayayo is peak humanity. Awesome. I really liked the messages in that one, and talking about like a bunch of weird people doing what they love. Like, yeah, that's awesome. You know, and admire, you know, really bringing a lot of love and respect to this series that, you know, I've never heard of, as it goes with YouTube, right? Yeah, it was just awesome. Really liked the video a lot. Very additive, interesting, and new sub. I mean, I would have subbed either way. I subbed before I watched the video because I do that. But yeah, it's great. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, and there's that Stevem video I talked about, I was telling you about last week, and it did come out a good time, the Evangelion Dilemma, and it's just a section of his larger Anno retrospective, focusing really squarely on Anno, but still having that awareness and still goodness of like, you know, talking and incorporating a lot of other people that worked on the production, in particular just talking about how, like, you know, Gainax physically couldn't make 26 episodes at this time, so they outsourced most of it to Tatsunoko with some other studios like Studio Ghibli. It doesn't even need to be that thorough about it. Even just that Ghibli stuff was just really interesting and valuable and additive. Is it the definitive Eva video? No, I'm not really looking for that anymore. I don't think anyone, you know, I like making that sort of stuff. I like trying to strive for that sometimes. In terms of the topic, because I don't want to make the video again. It's not so much I don't want other people to make. They can do whatever, but like, yeah, I just would want to do a good job type of thing. And at the end, he's plugging the Kari Kano translation GoFundMe, which got funded really quick. Hell yeah. But this was just really enjoyable, especially the ending where I don't know if I've ever really recognized this, but just the how, like, I'm not like, again, not super deep into Eva, but just this, the articulating of that. Anna was very proud of 25 and 26, loved those episodes, and then through a series of quotes that you can see the trajectory over the coming months after it aired, and in rapid succession, the company with the music and the way that it's presented with Stevem here, of just his souring on it is excellent, and that's kind of why End of Eva got made. At least it's implied that way, right? It's Steve's, like, that's where it's going. And then the I'm a Fool part with like the animation and there's his original stuff, and none of it's explained. It's all crypt. I'm like, what am I watching? But like, no one's doing that on YouTube. Like, very few people are like articulating this in this kind of artistic, expressive, interesting, cryptic kind of way. That's the good shit, in my opinion. That was the best part of the video for me, even beyond it, because the other stuff is kind of like what Stevem is good at, and like what I was expecting of him. And I also like kind of some of the artistic kind of oddities, and it's like, man, these Eva fans are sick. The Cho feature was really funny. It just came from a place of like, he knows what the fuck he's doing, but he's still challenging himself. It's top tier shit, man. It's a great video. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not just saying that because I voiced something in it, you know. And he sent me an early thing, and I've been able to. This is like maybe the fourth or fifth time I've watched it, you know. And I'm finally watching it for, you know, and talking about it on Digest and stuff. But it really is something, that thing is like, it's really worth rewatching. It's just an enjoyable video. Yeah, I enjoy it. I liked it a lot. But you know, you were right. You were right, Hiding. I would see you next week. 2 in a row, baby. Yeah. Look, I'm gonna be straight shot with you. I choose best of the week based on the videos that are available. And last week, it was like thinking, it was like, I really liked Hidings, and it's sort of an admission almost. This one, it was like, I gotta give it to Hiding. This was like, you forced my hand. This is really good shit. I'm not saying the other one wasn't as good, but it really was just sort of like, you're taking on, like, this week it's tough competition with like Stevem's Eva video and this Amelie Doree video and Weeb Crew, and like, it's really good videos that came out this week. And last week was just pretty good, and you really kind of the best. But like, this one is like, oh, I can't believe you don't even mention Kari. I don't think you say what the anime you're showing from the whole time. Maybe in the corner, because like you do that with like recommending. You do that stint where you're starting to recommend some shows, and but it was funny when that moment happened. I was like, oh, right, as because I've watched so many anime YouTube videos. It's like, oh, it's just a list video, okay. But it does go in a different direction of like, it's categories. You're not recommending specific shows. You're recommending broad swaths of shows. And I think it's really unique and interesting. And in that moment, you're using a lot of you're titling stuff in the corner. in kind of like a weird, so it's like cropped almost, and it's a little off, but in a way that's like so on brand for Kari Kano's. Like the whole video is embracing the editing, typography, wacky sort of off kilter nature of Kari Kano, even down to like having the OP, starting the video with the attention and the music tone in that, really as if you're watching an episode of Kari Kano, using the OST and et cetera, et cetera. He actually asked me of like getting footage for Kari Kano, and for some fucking reason, like I couldn't figure out how to get good footage that I got from my Kari Kano AMV. I don't know what happened, and it just kind of looks like Garbo, at least to me. And then I sent it to Hiding, and he's like, "This is fine," or it's like, "I can work with this," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Mm-hmm. But but like I can see what you did with it, because you have this entire overlay over it with the dust and scratches, and making it look really old, like vintage, not like it's from 1998, and not like this came out the same year as Cowboy Bebop kind of vintage. Like really, but it was delightful. I think it worked perfectly, actually. It was the first time where, like, because people really lament over how Kari Kano is in this very odd state where it can't be remastered really well because they were using a lot of computer effects, and the nature of some of the things, it's not in good quality, and it can't really be easily restored to good quality because of the various different things they did, like different interlacing things. It's stuff that it's very hard to fix, if not impossible. So a lot of people lament this thing, and you don't mention this in the video at all. You don't even mention the fucking name, which I like. I'm actually really enamored by, because the entire thing, it really makes you be like, if somebody had never heard of Kari Kano before but watched your video here, they would be like, "What the fuck is this? Oh my god, what is that?" At least that's what it felt like to me, as someone who's even seen Kari Kano. Granted, like a couple years ago now, but like watching it, especially the way you're editing it and embracing a lot of its oddities and interesting stuff, it's incredible. Really impressive shit. I just love the whole video, honestly. And of course how personal it is, and how you started mirroring your script and your voice onto what was happening in the show, and you don't have to call attention to it at all. Like a discerning viewer can actually see that and appreciate it, and this is like how much this show really meant to you, I guess. But like, you know, it wasn't anything that was on the nose. It never like broke the nose, basically. Whereas like this meant a lot to me. Okay, there, as you can see, you know, you kept the edifice up, if that makes sense, the whole time, even down to like having the ED recorded. Although I was a little lamented over the fact that you have all the patrons kind of over it, and then like you have like all of your stuff, like the side channel and related videos over that, and so like everything's obscuring it, so you can't really appreciate the thing that you filmed, which I really appreciate that you actually went ahead and filmed that in your new house and stuff like that. The kind of the recap, like imitating the Kari Kano recap at the beginning of the video, like embracing the charm of that, because it was something that I was just like, there's way too much of this recap in the show, and that was something that kind of was a barrier for me. But embracing it as a feature and not a bug was just like so interesting and awesome. God, you did 2 in a row, baby. Yeah, it was, and of course, I think I've also relate with. It's funny. It was just a coincidence. Before I watched all the digest videos, I got a comment on my Loop On video, and it was a really thoughtful, like, great comment, like kind of long and like really good, and it made me want to rewatch my Loop On video again, because that happens that video is really starting to become one of my favorites somehow. And so I rewatched it. And then, yeah, and then watching this video, the very outward struggle of making a YouTube video comes across here, and just the frustration of what to make and how to properly articulate romance anime and why you like it so much. The angst in that. Was so fucking relatable. And it's really just the thing we, you know, go for, but can never really fully achieve, or never feels like it's adequate enough. You know, it's like we can't really, but you do a damn fucking you, because it's like you're letting the show speak for itself, because you're writing it basically. It's like you're kind of like writing, and you know, using the show as you're complimenting the show as itself almost. I've really never seen anything like it, to be honest with you. That was fucking sick. I love the shit out of that. Also, the observation of like, you want to make high effort, high quality content. You really admire that stuff, but at the end of so much of YouTube and stuff that you also perpetuate and like consume yourself is completely passive, cheap, just throws out there, harmless, fine, you know. And just the struggle of that, of like, I could just make that. You know, and just like lampshading your own videos, like, these got popular because of course they did, that sort of thing. I don't know, there's just so much to it. I really want to rewatch it sometime. It's definitely one of my favorite videos that came out this year, and in a while, beyond a year. Like, that was fucking awesome. Needless to say, it's my favorite of yours so far. God damn it. Well, that'll do this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.